Hello and welcome back. So, in today's video, we're going to be exploring chapter 2. And remember, this is just a revision video. We're just going to revise everything. We're not really going to discuss things that much. But if you're trying to learn stuff, then you want to read it. Okay? But this is what it is. So, Tichon's train journey, another thing I wanted to mention is that keep wondering throughout the chapter. Okay, Tushar's train journey. Tushar was going from Delhi to Chennai for his cousin's wedding. They were traveling by train and he had managed to squeeze into the window seat. So he just squeezed into the window seat and they're going to Chennai. His nose glued to the glass pane as he watched trees and houses fly past. His uncle tapped his shoulder and said, "Do you know that trains were first used about 150 years ago?" So 150 years ago, that's a lot. And that people began using buses a few decades later, decades meaning 10 years later. Tushar wondered, when people couldn't travel quickly from one place to another, did they spend their entire lives wherever they were born? Not quite. The earliest people, why were they on the move? We know, let's discuss this topic a little bit. I know this is just a revision, but I'm gonna go through this really quickly. So why were they on the move, meaning why were they moving from places to places? They were basically moving from places to places, as you might know from our last chapter, that they were in search of exploration. They were in search of new animals, more food. So food is one reason why why they had to move. They had to explore, right? They had to explore. Yeah, explore. I know it's very messy, but food, explore. We know about people who lived in the subcontinent as early as 2 million years ago. Remember, 2 million years ago. Today we describe them as hunter-gatherers. The name comes from the way in as hunter-gatherers. So they hunted and they gathered them around. So, as we discussed in the last chapter, they hunted animals, they also hunted animals, and they gathered up their food. So, in winter, if they don't want to go hunting, they can just eat with whatever they have gathered up. The name comes from the way in which they got their food. Generally, they hunted wild animals, caught fish and birds, gathered fruits, roots, nuts, seeds, leaves, stalks, and eggs. Hunter-gatherers moved from places to places. That just explains why they were on the move, and that's obviously food. Just a sec, I'll just choose red because red looks prettier. There are many reasons for this. First, if they had stayed at one place for a long time, they would have eaten up all the available animal, plant, and resources. All the resources would have been eaten up, so they need to keep moving. Therefore, they had to go elsewhere in search of food. Second, animals move from place to place, either in search of a smaller prey or, in the case of deer and wildlife cattle, in search of grass and leaf, and that is why those who hunted them had to follow their movements. So that's exactly why they moved. So let's go to the next page. Third, plants and trees bear fruit in different seasons. So people may have moved from season to season in search of different kinds of plants. So as we discussed, that is exploration. Explore. So that they need to explore. Fourth, people, plants, and animals need water to survive. Water is found in lakes, streams, and rivers. Many rivers and lakes are perennial, so with water throughout the year. So I like how they explain what perennial is. Others are seasonal. So that's why they need to keep moving from places to places in search of food because of seasons. Seasons change. They have their own responsibilities. They have to follow the traces or the movement of their food. People living on the banks would have to go in search of water during dry seasons, winter and summer. So they had to live near banks of river. Banks of river. Very important. How do we know about these people? We discussed that archaeologists are the people who study the past, have found some of the things hunter and gatherers made and used. It is likely that people made and used tools of the stones, wood and bone, of which stone tools have survived the best. Some of these stone tools were used to cut meat and bone, so they cut with those stone tools, they scraped bark um, and cut the animal skin and stuff, chop fruits and roots and stuff. Some may have been attached to handles of bones or wood to make spears or arrows for hunting. Other tools were used to chop wood, which was used as firewood. Wood was also used to make huts and tools, so you can, as common sense says, you have a lot of materials that you need to make a proper house. Stone tools may also have been used for lift, dig in the ground, to correct edible fruit, so this part right here, right, stitching clothes made out of animal's skin. So in the last chapter, as I remember, we talked about how do archaeologists know that there are clothes? Well, maybe they found remains of animal skins, and maybe it was stitched up together, and they found stone tools like that. So that could be one relationship. Choosing a place to live. Look at map 2 below. All the places marked with red triangles are sites from which archaeologists have found evidence of hunter-gatherers. Hunter-gatherers lived in many more places, only some are shown in the map. Many sites were located near sources of water such as rivers and lakes. So these are all rivers, so that's why we can conclude that people like to live near banks of river. This is you want to take a really good look at this. So we were talking about the red triangle over here, I'm pretty sure. All the places marked with red triangle are sites from which archaeologists have found evidence of hunter-gatherers. So this one is a cave, so they lived in caves, right? You want to have a really good look at that, the blue and stuff, every single thing you want to have a good look. Yeah, it should be very, very important. Yeah, I'll do it for part 1, and then in part 2 we will continue from this page. Thanks for watching and tune in for the next part.